This is the 18th season of Bass Talk Live. With your host, Matt Pangrath. BTL is brought to you by Lorraine, Bass Cat Boats, AFCO, Strike King Lures, Sunline, Big Bite Baits, Spro, X-Zone Lures, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, and Pro Guide Batteries.
PTL, coming at you!
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. It is Tuesday, May 10th, and for the first time in like 5 or 6 weeks, I don't have anywhere to be in 2 days. Full week of BTL this week, full week of Bass Talk Live next week, and some sad news that broke yesterday morning that Ray Scott, founder of Bassmaster BASS, the Bass Angler Sportsman Society, who had the first tournament in 1967, passed away at age 88. I know that he had been a little bit poor health over the past couple years, but 88 years old. Ray Scott, as Bassmaster.com in their opening article said, the father of modern bass fishing has passed away. And I didn't really get to know, I met him just a couple times, shook his hand. Ray's literally anybody or everybody who has anything to do with the tournament bass fishing industry knows Ray. So never spent any one-on-one time with him, but 2001 inductee into the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame. And his impact will forever be felt across the world of fishing. Started the team Bassmaster Tournament Trail in 1967. Pioneered catch and release. I believe it was something like "Don't Kill Your Catch." That was 1972. 1984 is when Ray and Bob Cobb, who came out with the Bassmasters TV show. I think that's kind of what got a lot of people of an entire generation hooked on tournament bass fishing. One of the other things that Ray was a big time pioneer in was boating and boating safety. Obviously, it's been well documented his relationship with some of the biggest and best boat builders in the industry, most notably early on. Forrest L. Wood, and Ray was one of the pioneers of boating safety, even though he also did the shotgun start, which was absolutely crazy if you go back and look at any of those tournament starts where they're all lined up in the boats and they just say, go, and everybody goes. But Kill Switch instituted, the Kill Switch. I actually wrote an article about that probably 10, 15 years ago called Kill Switch Engage for Bass West magazine. And it kind of went over the gentleman who kind of came to Ray at a tournament and said, hey, this, and Ray was all about the safety innovations and put that on. So that first classic also, we've talked about this, with Lake Mead out there on the West Coast and Bass going out west with the 1971 classic on Lake Mead, getting those guys up in the airplane, opening the envelope, telling them they're going to Lake Mead, standardizing all the equipment across the board with how much tackle and the boats that they could do. It's just all sorts of stuff that we take for granted now that was in one man's mind, and then he had the wherewithal and the drive and the salesmanship to make it all happen, and that was Ray Scott. So 88 will be missed, but his I don't even want to say it's like an impact, because the whole thing is because of him. But we'll do some more stuff with Ray. I'm sure we'll get Ken Duke on next week. I know we just had him on, but he was the one who texted me yesterday about Ray's passing, so we'll probably get him back on next week, along with some other. They'd probably be old timers in a good sense, not in a bad sense. Old timers on to talk about Ray and some of Ray's stories. So great show today. Syd Rives from Spro Gamakatsu. He's actually, I think they're in Kennesaw, Georgia, at the headquarters there, the warehouse for Spro Gamakatsu. Like I've stated, this year we've done things a little bit different and taken some of the show sponsors and they're experts in the industry, guys who have been in it 10, 20, 30 years and done this, and then really kind of dived into their passion, their company, their work, how it works behind the scenes, whether it's batteries, whether it's rods, whether it's electronics. And this week with a lot of the tournament trails kind of past that halfway mark, we're kind of past some of the spawning stuff. I know the MLF Pro Circuit is on Gunnersville this week. The Elite Series picks back up, but I think you're going to see a lot more hard baits come into play. So I said, Sid, why don't you come on and run down how a hard bait is made? And Spro is one of the biggest in the industry with a lot of really great lineups of hard baits. Now they're getting into like everything now. I think they're doing everything. They're trying to take over the industry. Is what they're trying to do. But we'll talk about what he's got going on and really dive into kind of some of his thoughts on the bait industry, how hard it is to break into the bait industry on a major level, and a bunch of other stuff. I did mention that Lake Gunnersville is going on. Hard to believe it is already the fourth stop of the Bass Pro Tour Pro Circuit. And it's interesting with that tournament trail. I think they're only getting like 2 days of practice, and then they end up having a day off. So I know I talked to a couple of the guys who have fished that, and some of them really love that kind of shortened practice as opposed to the full 3 days that they've been used to in the past. But Chickamauga, a little stingy in the past Toyota Series this past week. I think a guy came back from 13th place to win. He had a 22-pound bag, and that was the second biggest bag of the entire week, that 22-pound bag. So maybe we'll have a show out on Lake Gunnersville for the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit. We're going to take our first quick break of the morning. When we come back, I'm looking at him right now in the queue. He's got all sorts of... I visited that place before, their headquarters, and like one of every single frog, one of every single Little John, one of every single McStick in the background there. It's like the pegboard of envy behind Sid there. It's every bait you've ever wanted. So it is BTL on a Tuesday. We'll be back after this.
The time for you to get Active Target Live Sonar is now. Get $200 cash back when you buy Active Target, or $400 back with Active Target and Elite FS9. And change the way you fish. Target fish with Active Target and let Elite FS handle the rest. Active Target is also compatible with HDS Live and HDS Carbon. Active Target by Lowrance.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
Welcome back, BTL on a Tuesday. It is now time to go to Georgia Bulldog fan, Syd Reeves, and sales manager for, is it Spro / Gamakatsu or just Spro?
Just Spro. We're the eastern part of the United States.
All right. How does that all work? Because I know you've got like a bunch of that there in the what's the relationship between it? Is it? How does that work, Sid?
Yeah, we're sister companies. So Gamakatsu actually was the first one to come in the United States, and when they set up in the early 90s here in the U.S., they actually broke off in about 1997 and started kind of a lure, terminal tackle, that type of stuff. They started Spro in 97 in the U.S. So we were kind of the lure side / distributor for Gamakatsu / sister company. So we kind of fit underneath the the utility belt.
I got you. So 25 years of Spro then. This is the 25th anniversary. Is my math
absolutely.
correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, we're working on several 25th anniversary like gift items, some cups and some other stuff that we're working on right now.
A cup, like a drinking cup?
Oh yeah, man. We're not. I mean, it's not going to be for sale. It's going to be just for something we'll probably sell on our website, and something we'll give to some of our customers, like like.
Can you not do a cup that's like the shape of a poppin' frog with like the mouth open at the top?
I mean, we could.
Little tassels coming out of the bottom of it.
We can make anything, Matt.
I'm just saying. I think that would be a novelty item, and as many diehard froggers are out there, I think they'll enjoy drinking their iced tea out of a Spro poppin' frog.
We can look at that, man.
Mug.
That's a great idea. I like it.
I opened the show talking about the passing of Ray Scott, founder of Modern Bass Fishing. I know you've been in this game a long time, Sid. I don't know if you had a personal relationship with Ray or any stories, but I mentioned that yesterday when I was talking with Rojas about it. Man, we all pretty much owe our livelihoods to the vision of Ray.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at it, I mean, this guy, he was the ultimate promoter. That's the way I look at Ray Scott, man. He had great ideas. He promoted. He wasn't afraid to take a chance. I think if you look at a lot of the things that he did, he took chances, flying the guys out to Lake Mead and doing all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's who he was and what he did. And he really enjoyed the moment. And if you look at that, I mean, that's a life well lived. And, that's what, while I didn't really know him, I knew who he was. And I knew on Saturday morning on TNN, you could hear Bob Cobb coming in with that raspy voice telling everybody, this is the Bassmasters. And dude, it used to give me chills as a kid. I'm 41 years old. I'm not an old timer by any means, but I've followed bass fishing my whole entire life, and I love it. This is my passion. Bass fishing and any kind of fishing, actually. I'll fish for anything that swims. Matt, I know you like to crappie fish too. I like to crappie fish. That type of stuff. I mean, it's anything. But I look at that, and I look at what he did for bass fishing and Bassmaster, and he put it kind of as a mainstream across the United States, one organization that did one thing, and that was bass fishing tournaments, where a lot of it before was, a lot of smaller, local deals that were doing it, or regional. He made it more of a national deal.
Mm-hmm. And I think that also provided the legitimacy for it with the, some of the stuff that I've read in the past, it's kind of like the Wild West and fruit jar tournaments where guys would show up, but they're, weighing in frozen bass and stuff. And Ray was like the one who was like, no, we're doing this the right way. We're going to make sure it's fair. We're going to show. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you've got guys on your pro staff, and guys who were there from the beginning, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, Roland Martin's still on my pro staff. Charlie Ingram's on my pro staff. I mean, it's
Roland was the OG
for a long time. Yeah, man, love it.
9 Angler of the Years.
Oh yeah, and still going strong on YouTube. He actually made me a turkey call, and like did all the wrote all the little everything on it. Yeah, man.
I didn't know that. You ever just call up Roland like you're stuck in Atlanta traffic and you're on the way home and you're like, well, I mean, he's on my pro staff. I know he's going to answer. You just call up and shoot the breeze with Roland Martin?
Oh, absolutely. He's awesome. Roland is he's awesome. He's the most enthusiastic guy when it comes to bass fishing and turkey hunting and deer hunting and everything else. We talk about everything. He's a great guy.
So it sounds like you have always been ate up with the fishing deal. Like it wasn't like you were a marketing major and then found your way into the fishing industry. You've always been a bass fishing guy.
Yeah, I mean, I did graduate from the University of Georgia. I have a degree in housing, which it's HACE, which housing, yes, like housing and consumer economics.
What do you do with that?
I don't know. I guess I get a job at a fishing company.
No, seriously, what is that? Like you determine like how neighborhoods are laid out and stuff?
Well, they do some of that, and also a lot of the guys that I know are builders or you know they do all kinds of stuff like that. I mean, but really, if you want to know the truth with me, it was I needed to get out of school, so I chose something and got out. That was
Were
what
you
I
there
did.
for like 6 years? I could see you
No,
as like a
five and a
6 year.
quarter.
Oh,
I
that's
mean,
not bad.
Athens was an unbelievable town whenever I was there, and Ken Duke and I always talk about it because he was there a little bit. He was there a little bit earlier than I was, but we it's hard to leave that place. It is just an awesome place,
Mhm.
and I'm so thankful that I was able to experience that. It was a great deal, but like I said, I needed to get the heck out of there and go get a job and start trying to work towards something that I wanted to do. And that kind of leads me a little bit into if you want me to tell you a little bit about my journey, where I came from.
You tell me how whatever we want.
Okay. All right. So
It's just you get a
basically,
lot of listeners who are like, well, how do you end up
yeah,
How do
how
you
do
end
you
up
end up
as
in
the
the fishing
host of a
tackle industry?
podcast for fishing? How do you end up as a guy who
Yeah.
calls Roland
Yeah.
Martin every Tuesday for an hour?
Yeah. No, it's not that often. But as far as my journey, I was very, very fortunate. I the funny part about this was I kind of didn't really fall into it, but I did a little bit. I actually wanted to work more on the hunting side. So I called up to Bass Pro Shops. We knew a guy. I was going to try to get in with that. I wanted to be like a gun rep or a sales rep or something like that. I see these
Okay.
guys, doing that, and it looks like a lot of fun. So I wanted to do that at first, and there were no jobs available at Bass Pro in my local store working in the hunting side of it. So all that was available was the fishing side. And I just graduated from the University of Georgia, and um, I took the real estate exam. I thought I was going to be a realtor, and that didn't work out. I didn't really want to do it, so it was like,
The exam didn't work out, or the
eh,
the career
all of it
path,
didn't work
all
out.
of the above.
It was one of those deals where I think I made a 74, and you had to make a 75. My heart wasn't in it. I knew it.
Mhm.
Uh, I knew I wanted to do something in the outdoor industry, and I had a degree. I'd done all that. I wanted to do something in the outdoor industry, and I really wanted to be a gun rep. Well, you know, I looked into it, and I tried to get a job at Bass Pro in the gun department, and it just didn't work. So then I went out, and they said, we're hiring in the fishing department. We've got the big what is it, the spring classic coming up.
Yeah, that's
And
big
this
time there.
this was in 2005. And I was like, okay, well, you know what? I'll move up there. I was living in Macon at the time. I moved up to Gwinnett County, moved in an apartment, worked at Bass Pro, barely made it by. I was eating like bologna sandwiches every week, every day, and
Potted
not
meat.
really. I didn't have any money. I mean, it was working retail, and I was looking at all my other buddies that were bankers and all this other stuff. They were making all kinds of money, and I'm making nothing.
That's your question,
Working
your
6
life
days a
decisions,
week.
like 4 years out of college, and you go to your buddy's house, and you're like, dang, maybe I
Yeah.
should have taken this route. But then he looks at you and he's like, dude, you get to be in the fishing industry. Like I
Oh
trade you
yeah.
in a heartbeat.
Oh yeah. So I worked at Bass Pro Shops for about a year. And then a guy that actually I still work with named Matt Ledbetter. He's
Oh, okay.
Matt.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He's a Sunline, Big Bite, all that rep. He approached me and said that Spro was hiring, and he knew the sales manager at the time, got him Tim Norman, and I was able to get an interview, and I was able to get the job. And I think the biggest thing that I can say is, my retail experience is what really got me this job. I would not have gotten this job if I would have right straight out of college gone to Spro and asked for a job. It wouldn't have happened. I had experience selling in a reputation
Hmm.
of somebody at that Bass Pro Shops that could sell. And I think that that's what really got me the job. So if I had anything to tell somebody is, you know, you really have to get some kind of experience working retail, knowing the products and knowing how to talk to customers. Not only customers that are let's say like just a regular customer off the street. You need to know how to talk to like an actual retailer also. there's two different ways of talking to them. It's completely different ball game. And that being said, you have to know how to sell. That's the number one thing. If you can't produce, then you're not going to be around.
Mm-hmm. It just so happens that you're selling something that you're very passionate about.
Oh, absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So then you've done this then for how many years then?
This is my 16th year.
I know, that's crazy. When we talk about BTO, it's like, where did all those years go?
I know, man. I remember you coming to one of our first media events.
I was carrying Jeffrey's camera stuff. He was making me fix him hot dogs without buns and go get him 7 hamburger patties for his meat-only diet. Set up all the camera stuff.
You remember he ran out of gas in the Skeeter? He didn't know how to switch the gas tanks or something?
Oh, my gosh. Was that a Spro event?
Yes. It was.
That was the very first one, Sid. I think I might have still been interning with him. That would have been 2007.
Yeah.
And we were with Skeeter, and we were taken out of Martin's Landing there. And we were in the – how do I remember this? Oh, we were in the conference room downstairs, and it was my first event ever that there was swag.
Oh, yeah.
Like now, you walk in and all the riders, you expect, here's a tackle, but here's all the new stuff. Here's a sweatshirt embroidered with the logos and the hat, and you wear it the next day, and you're like, I made out like a bandit. I brought home $500 worth of stuff, and obviously that's how you're like, hey, write about our stuff, promote our stuff. So you hook them up with – I remember just being like, I have hit the jackpot. I'm getting free frogs.
You were super young, man. It was awesome. Yeah. And I mean, I was a lot younger too back then, so I was 26, 27.
We had Jeffrey's had a ski big time into the Skeeter deal there, and we were on Grand, and I'd fished it a couple times with buddies, and he let me go out by myself to fish for a couple hours. And I get by Patricia Island, and it just goes, whoa. I'm like, oh, great. I just blew up my Mark's boat. I mean, I was freaking out and got towed in. Yeah, I just had to switch gas tanks.
It was awesome.
That happens to everybody, though. I mean, you've had to have done that before.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a lot of people who've done that before. You just need to toggle the switch over.
All right, let's get into the nitty gritty here, Sid. Over the last couple of years, it seems like Spro has just exploded as far what's a SKU number, right? Is that the way to say? Is that the industry way to say it? Like you have expanded your SKU note, which is SKU, which stands, what does that stand for?
Stock keeping unit.
Stock keeping unit. Okay, so every stock keeping unit is a different product. Might be a color, size, bait, whatever, but you base the size of your company based on how many SKUs you offer.
Yeah,
is that correct?
A lot because well, I mean, the size, but you can have a lot of SKUs, but if they don't sell, it doesn't really matter.
Right. Well, how many SKUs did you guys have like 3 years ago, and how many SKUs do you have now?
We had about 4,000 to 5,000 three years ago, and then now we're pushing 8 to 10 now. So it's a lot. Last year alone, we had about 1,800 new SKUs, and it's not all in bass fishing. What a lot of people, there's a whole nother world out there that we sell to in saltwater, and we sell a lot of jigs. We've gotten into slow pitch jigging, and actually just got back from a trip slow pitch jigging down in Florida. It was a blast. We caught a bunch of different stuff.
That is
I'll put it into a bass knowledge here. Think flutter spooning. That's pretty much, it's very similar to ripping a flutter spoon. It has to do with your cadence and rhythm, and you're basically playing a cat and mouse game trying to make that fish bite a fluttering spoon.
What kind of fish?
We caught all kind. We caught 27 different species
on one spoon.
Spoons. We had multiple sizes, and
they're like ounces, though, aren't they? They're not like flutter spoons. They're like chunks of lead.
Yeah, we do it in grams. So we were using anywhere from 180 grams all the way up to, I think, 500 is the biggest one we used. And we were fishing anywhere from 120, probably 90 feet all the way up to, I think the deepest we fished was 800 feet. So we went the gambit.
It cracks me up. Because didn't you say last time when Brad and I were there and he did the video, like you had one whole wall that was nothing but those bucktail jigs, and you're like,
Oh, yeah.
dude, this is our best seller. Like this, we sell more bucktail jigs at Spro than other.
Yeah. Yeah. We saw a ton of bucktail jigs. And what that market mostly is that's the Northeast. We're selling a lot of that for flounder and striper fishermen. They use our product pretty religiously up there. And then also we sell a lot to freshwater guys. A white 1/2 ounce bucktail jig will catch just about anything in the world. Any kind of predatory fish will eat a white bucktail.
Like you said, you're up to 8,000 SKUs, and it's always funny. Like you get down to it, and it's a hook with some hair tied to it and a spoon, just a chunk of metal with a hook. Like those things have stood the test of time for hundreds of years. Like, you could go 100 years ago and someone would have some sort of spoon on and some sort of hair jig that, from a deer that they killed with a slingshot.
Oh yeah. And we take it to a whole different level. My boss, Kazutomo Nakamura, he's been doing the slow pitch jigging thing for 12 years or more. And he's got all kinds of videos that he watches from the masters of slow pitch from Japan. And that's where it came from. And, he's really good at it. And I catch one for every 5 that he catches.
I've seen it. It looks tiring though.
It's a completely different ball game. I mean, it's, you think you just go out there and jig it like you're jigging a freaking Flex spoon. No, you don't. It's a completely different ball game. There's rhythm. There's half pitch, quarter pitch, full pitch. Oh my goodness. It's just, it really is the closest to the technical aspects of bass fishing that I've done in saltwater. There's so many different things: leader length, line, knots, types of reels. It's really, for lack of a better term, I mean, it really is. It's some real booger eating stuff, Matt. Real booger eating stuff, dude.
Before I get to it, I've always wanted to ask you, do you have any story behind the eye, the Spro eye, how that came to be?
The bronze eye?
Yeah, the actual, that angry, because I've seen that in other things now, but that's kind of the hallmark of Spro for me is that eye, where you tie it on, especially, the frog, and you're like, yeah, that sucker's ready to catch him. And it's just, it's a little cosmetic deal there, but I think it's been huge for you guys.
Absolutely. So that came out on the bronze-eye frog originally. And that a lot of that I think had to do with Rojas. He wanted a really mean-looking frog, and Shocker. That's what we did. Yeah, shocker, exactly. So that's what we did, and we made the mean eye on the bronze eye, and we carried it over, and now we've got it on Little John's, Aruku Shads, Fat Papas. Everything's got that mean eye.
You think eyes make a difference?
I don't know. I really don't know. I think it could, but more than likely that fish just sees something alive and they're going to eat it. I mean,
I've had this debate with other guys, and it's one of those that's almost I guess if you did some sort of lab deal, you might be able to tell, but how do you know? If you're going to, how do you know if they're if something in their brain triggers because of you can never actually tell that if it makes a difference or not.
I think something triggers in our brain that says it needs eyes and it looks right. So I'm going to throw it and have confidence in it. I think that's a lot of it. But if you look at it, I mean, how many fish have you caught on a plastic worm? How many fish have you caught on a fluke? How many fish, none of those have eyes on them, and we catch a ton of fish on them.
You want to know something crazy? This is honest to God truth, Sid. I have never weighed in a hollow-bodied frog fish in a bass tournament, and I've been fishing tournaments since I was 14. And I roomed with Dean when I was covering the Elite Series from 2008 to 2016, every single event.
I know.
Is that not wild?
Man. You got to put down the drop shot.
So at Ross Barnett, I lost it on the first jump. But when I set the hook, I was throwing a little popping frog, and a good one ate it. Unfortunately, I was looking down trying to get muck off my trolling motor, and I looked back up and went, it was like bobber fishing. I was like, where's my bobber? It's gone. I got one. But it was the frog. And the first thing that went through my head was, oh my gosh, I'm going to finally weigh a frogfish in a tournament. And then he jumped. And then because I hadn't seen him take the bait, I just was out of rhythm. I screwed it up. And he jumped off on the first jump because he had it. And there was some bow in the line when I set it. And I was more upset that I was going to break the streak of no frogfish because everyone catches them on a frog.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone with Bradley Hallman and all that. I mean, it's like a frog. Everyone throws a frog in Oklahoma. And I was more upset that I wasn't going to get to weigh that 2.5 pounder in on a frog than that I lost the fish.
That's funny. And, the funny thing is about that, a lot of times if you let them have it too long like that, they get it in their throat and you'll never get a hook in them. I've seen that too. They close their mouth on the line and it doesn't matter how hard you set the hook. It's still, they come up that one time, jump, open their mouth, and it's gone.
Really?
Yeah.
So you can let them take it too good because you always see, boom, wait till you feel them, set the hook. But if they get it back further. And then when you're setting the hook, you're saying you're not getting as much penetration because their mouth is closed along the line. The braided line gets caught in the teeth. You're not getting the penetration of the hook set like you would when it's just the frog.
Yep, absolutely. And they come up, especially a bigger fish. They'll come up, open their mouth, and then spit it. Seen it many times.
Interesting.
And I'm talking fish that are, 5 to 8 pounds. Usually the bigger ones are the ones that do that. Small
David
fish.
has some weird mojo going on. He goes, I had no idea what the topic was for today, but I'm actually wearing my Come Over to the Dark Side Spro t-shirt this morning.
That's vintage, man. You need to hang on to that one.
Yeah. Just asked how many hooks need to be ordered to get a custom G finesse type hook? Like if you're gonna make a hook, how many? You got to probably order quite a few to put a hook into production. I would imagine that's a arduous process.
Yeah, it's probably 50 to 100,000, and you're looking at right now on a G finesse hook. Those are special kind of steel, and it's takes a long time to sharpen those hooks. You're probably looking at anywhere from 10 to 18 months.
You brought that up. What is the process of concept to market? Because I've been through it with the soft bait, obviously that big bite baits BFE that we did with Brad Hallman. And there were like 5 or 6 times during the process, because Brad had never designed a bait, I had never designed a bait, where we looked at each other and we were like, you're down to like millimeters and you have meetings and all this stuff. And you're like, is this thing ever going to come out? And then all of a sudden it's like, boom, there it is. But there's a lot of like garage people that, pour plastics and you can have the molds, and it seems like a plastic is easier to come to market. And then you think of a hard bait. And I was one of the main reasons I wanted to get you on today was to talk about when you see a bait on the shelf, new bait comes out at ICAST, goes to the dealers, goes to retail. How long has that bait been in somebody's mind before guys like me can go buy it?
Well, it depends on what it is. And it depends on what brand it is, or if it let's just say us and it's a pro design bait.
Okay.
Most of the time, the way that works is one of the pros will come to us. Like, let's take the Little John.
Okay.
John Cruz. Go there? Little John. John Cruz.
So what year was that? First year that came out was
2007, I think.
Okay. So 2007, 8, Little John comes out. How long had it been bouncing around?
Probably a year. John had been talking to us about making he had a balsa bait that he liked a lot. There was a flat-sided small balsa bait, handmade deal. And he said the casting was pretty good, but it wasn't that great. He wanted to make one that was like that, but it had a weight transfer and it was made out of plastic, and it would have one of the computer chip type bills on it. So the first step in that process was we got the concept, and John actually drew out on a piece of graph paper kind of what he was looking at. Mm-hmm. And then he gave us a sample of that balsa bait to give us something to look at. This was before all the 3D printing. This was before, all the design that we can do now.
So like when the iPhone first came out.
Yeah. This is a long
like
time.
The iPhone 1. Yeah. Everyone was walking around with the, what was the one that just played music? The iPod?
iPod.
He was probably listening to his iPod when he drew it on the graph paper.
So he takes that, he draws it out, and we have that, and he talks about like the bill shape and everything. So we take that, we take it to our factory. It kind of gives us a little bit of a shape. So then they actually handmade out of like clay or something like that. They carved out what the shape of this new bait was going to be, and then they stuck a computer chip bill in that carved out version so we could see it and we could look at bill angles and all that. So that was the first step.
So
The
they,
next step,
sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I stop you because I have questions. So who's they? So like, you have your
our
company
our
hires design people who have degrees in what, mathematics and design?
no, we actually have the opportunity to work with a Japanese design firm. That's
Okay.
who helped us with this.
Okay.
And they are very, very good. And they're bass fishermen too. And he's actually one of the first generation, maybe second generation bass fishermen from Japan. Very, very knowledgeable. He's not a name that you would know over here, but he's very knowledgeable in let's say fishing and design, and he's very artistic too. He can paint custom colors. He's really great guy. So we're working with him. He's the same guy that worked with us on the Frog. So
Okay, so he
he worked
gets
with
the
us on the
drawings
Little
and all
Frog.
that,
Mhm.
and so I just didn't know if it was like Jim, who you hired off Craigslist, who once took
Oh,
a pottery
yeah.
class in junior college.
No, this guy's
this
professional.
is this guy's job. Okay.
Yeah, professional. This is what he does. And I found, a lot of times the Japanese are very attention to detail and very good at that
Meticulous.
type of stuff. So he did that, and we got it back. We changed the bill angle to what John wanted. Then they go into making what we call an action sample. And then that's going to be, they actually make a handmade mold, like a testing style mold, that you can inject plastic into, and they make it, and then they glue it together with some hardware on the inside so that we can check the action. Then if we check the action, John does some tweaking to it. We get the action correct. Then we come out with the first testing bait that would have like the weight transfer in it. The first one wouldn't have a weight transfer; it'd just be glued in there.
But it would be the same weight.
The action would be the
Everything.
same.
So like when you say John does some tweaking, like what might some tweaks be? Like
Okay, I mean, John. A lot of times he may file down the bill a little bit. He might change the shape. He may take it and try to glue the bill in a different way into the bait to give it a different action. John's very knowledgeable at a lot of all that kind of stuff.
so then he
Really
would call
good.
back and say, hey, I took a 16th of an inch off the bill and I moved the angle down 4 degrees and I like how this one feels better. So then you go, okay, and you go back in your specs and you go back and you send it back to the
give me the
master
bait
maker. Yeah, the bait back.
Give me the bait back. Yeah, don't. The problem is, I wouldn't dare just take it down. I'd be like, look, you got to give me the physical sample back. I'm going to take that to the factory.
Because there's only one at this point, or 2 or 3.
Yeah,
That's all that exists, right?
Usually one. So
Has anyone ever lost one in a prototype bait where they call and they're like, Sid, we got an issue, man?
Mike McClellan.
Really?
Lost one. Yeah.
In the rock crawler or mixed stick?
Mixed stick.
He had to call you and be like, dude.
Yeah.
I lost the only mixed stick. How'd he lose it?
I don't know. Just lost in a brush pile or something. I don't know.
I could see.
And he did another one. He lost one of our color samples at the media conference at Oneida one year too.
Only one that existed.
Yeah, only one that exists.
All right, sorry. Back to the John Cruz.
No, okay.
That's a good side note, though.
Okay, so no, John took that bait. We got in the testing sample. Testing sample ran okay. Then we get in the final mold. Final mold goes okay. So you're talking between all this. We're working with pro staff now. So there's days going in between that these guys can't get out on the water, that these guys get on the water, everything else. This is not done. It's done in-house, but it's not really done in-house. It's done. We actually use our pro staff. So it takes us about a year to really go from the start, from that first sample, like shape sample, all the way through production to get production here. So it takes us a long time to get this stuff going. And a lot of the reasons is because things change. We change stuff up. They like something about something. They don't like this. So then we got to change it up. And that's kind of the way it goes. And, we're pretty patient on that stuff. We want it to be right when it comes out.
How do you I want to kind of do this like with the tech world and stuff, like, there's like trade secrets and I can't tell you about what we're working on and things. Like, how do you keep this stuff under wraps? Like, do you have to sign like non-disclosures and have like meetings where there's 6 people that know about this bait and they're the only 6 that know about it, and that angler doesn't? Because it's just, it's a copycat world when it comes to the hard bait market and the soft bait market, and fishing in general it seems like a copycat world. But what are some of the steps that you guys take to where when people see it they're like, whoa, I had no clue this was coming?
Well, most of the time anglers are pretty secretive about what they're doing. And that is one of the traits that is a good thing about a lot of these pros is, they don't know everything that their buddy's doing. And, that's part of it. Another part is that it's in their contract that they're not allowed to discuss this with outside people outside of our group. So for the most part, it does stay pretty, let's say, secretive.
All right. And then you have a whole nother division, or does that take place in your office where you go marketing, packaging, name, the whole plan behind getting this thing out there? Then is that kind of your expertise, being the sales and marketing director?
Yeah, we do that. We do all of our packaging in house. We do all our design in house. That's all the design for the packaging is done here. So we have a guy that works in SolidWorks, and we have another guy that does all of our digital part of our packaging too. And that's kind of what we do here in the office. So, it's kind of like, we'll look at a bait and we'll stare at it for a little bit and we'll say, man, we already have the name for it. We've already talked to the pro about the name. So then we just, slap on the features of the bait on the back of the package and out she goes.
So the next step then, and like I said, you could probably go into hours and hours about different little design tweaks and things that are working, and it's obviously changed over the years. I know when Brad and I were there last year, you have a 3D deal that's like in house now, like to where they're like, hey, we can like rip this bait out quick just to get a deal. That process has changed probably drastically, and a lot of the time is cut down since you started even.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we do, we have a guy that works in house, and he does all of our SolidWorks. Let's say it's not really 3D CAD. It's SolidWorks is what we work in, and he's very expertise in that. He's also a hunter and he's fisherman too, so he's into it. And really where that helps us is it helps us get that original shape first. And then we can send that to our factory to create, the different molds and all that kind of stuff. So it cuts out that one step from drawing to first sample, which that probably cuts down, 2.5 months. So it does help that. But that being said, it does take longer for hard baits versus, let's say, a plastic. Like a plastic, I can shoot out a 3D of that, make a silicone mold, and be shooting that in a week at the most. Where a hard bait, it might take me, 2 to 3 weeks to get a sample back here.
All right, I want to keep this timeline going, Sid, because my whole goal here is to kind of get just an understanding of everybody, of kind of an appreciation of when they walk into a tackle shop and say that it went. But then I want to circle back to some questions. I know Clay had some valid questions on it and stuff. But so now you've got a bait, and now it's in most cases a bait that's designed by a pro that you're paying, that is getting a paycheck from Spro. It's been their baby for a year to 2 years, depending on however long this takes. How important and we've talked about this for shows, how important is tournament success, being on Bass Live, being on MLF Live, being in Bassmaster Magazine, being on websites, highlight, how important is that to you as a whole, or do you just have a marketing campaign for it? It goes out with Spro, and then anything else is gravy.
Okay, so in a perfect world, the guy does really well in a bass tournament when we're about to get the bait here, but that's not how it usually works.
And that's I caught it on a prototype that's going to be available in a couple months. And somewhere there's, depending on what company, somewhere there's a Syd Reeves behind the scenes, just ka-ching, yes, dog, can't believe it.
Yeah,
this is awesome.
It'll work that way, but the thing is, with today's world, yeah, it works, but it kind of stinks, in the fact that there's a tournament coming up the next week,
Yeah,
and somebody else is going to win something on somebody else, and if the people can't get their hands on it, that kind of stinks too. So in a perfect world, they you plan for this. You've got the product here. It's a Little John, so it's going to be here. It needs to probably be here in February, January, February, at least. You probably, let me back up. You probably needed to be showing that to your retailers in May, the prototypes, the May before that. They put it in their stores. You get it in January. They put it in their stores. It's sitting in their stores. John Cruz wins a tournament in March, so that the stuff's already out there for people to buy and get instant gratification. Where if it's a prototype and I'm not going to have it for another 6 months, you've lost all your momentum, and it's not in the store, so nobody can buy it. So, the I'd say the best for us, the best and most successful products for us have been products that they've been in the store when the person won the tournament on it.
Okay. Interesting. I was just looking at 2007 to see. I know John had a good year there. He had a top 10 on his home lake there on Smith Mountain, and I was just wondering, was there one of those events, either I think the Clarks Hill or the where he was throwing that? It'd be like the first year out where he's like, "Hey, I'm throwing this new crankbait. It's got a circuit board bill. It acts like a balsa bait, but it's made out of ejected, and it just came to the market." If that kind of gave you a push early on for the Little John.
Matt, if I could remember that far back, I'd be the man.
I know, I'm trying, and Bass is still working. I know Chris Mitchell does a great job and Jim Sexton on the website over there, but some of the links are not updated from their new stuff yet, so it's hard to go through. And
I can't remember, but John did an excellent job. John did an excellent job marketing that bait. We sold it really, really well. The first,
right off the bat, because that's the other thing. Like taking the Whopper Plopper, like Larry Dahlberg, and they come out with it, and it's like 7 muskie people use it for the first 5 years, and then all of a sudden, boom, it explodes. But it had been out there without selling. So I imagine that's also kind of stressful. Like how long do you keep this thing out? How long do you push it before something happens? It's kind of like a waiting game in some instances. In other instances, it's instantly. You've got people pre-ordering them.
There's a lot of luck of the draw when it comes to that too. But with us, we knew we had a good bait. We knew that John had designed something that would catch fish. I personally caught fish on it. I love the bait. I still throw it all the time. And then that was kind of the basis for the Little John family, was that first Little John. So then, we created that. Well, then there's a whole family of baits behind that. So I think that helps push our sales for all the baits. So basically, John comes to us and says, I want a deeper diving one. So we designed a deeper diver one. Then he comes to us and says, I want an even deeper one. So when we design an even deeper one. So it all kind of compounds on top of itself. So then you get in there and you actually have a series of crankbaits. So that's kind of how our hard bait side of our company kind of started, was with the Little John. The modern day Spro lures kind of started with the Little John. I know there was an Aruku Shad out. We sold a lot of those, but as far as the
wiggling baits with the
bottom
bill
to the top, it was John Cruz.
So then, was it then you guys have a lot of, I mean, obviously what KVD has done with Strike King. There's certain anglers that are synonymous with different baits, but Spro, I mean, you've got like the Russ Lane line, you've got Mike McClellan, you've got Dean Rojas, you've got John Cruz. It's really interesting how Spro has been able to put specific anglers to specific lines of baits across the board. But that was intentional based on the success of the Little John family, then to say, okay, this is our guy for this niche moving forward.
Yeah, and if you look, I mean, Little Johns for the most part, they're all flat-sided crankbaits.
Yep.
There you go. That's what John Cruz really liked, was that tight Xing action where Russ Lane wanted a wider, wobbling type of action. There you go. There's Russ. So that's how we kind of differentiated it between the anglers. And we've been extremely successful with that, and it's been cool. It's been cool to watch those guys. It's been fun to grow with them. We've all learned a lot over the years of how to build these baits and what we're doing, and they kind of know the process now.
Mm-hmm.
And at first they were a little bit, let's say maybe impatient. So was I, but now we've gotten used to it and we know what's going on, and we haven't streamlined it that much, but it's streamlined some.
And then you've added it. You added who'd you add? You have Welcher now?
Yeah, I got Welcher,
and you
Cook.
added the Johnson brothers
Mm-hmm.
and Drew Cook. And are they like working on all their top secret stuff too now?
Yeah, I've been working with Corey and Chris a good bit. I'm trying to work with Kyle on a couple different projects and Drew. So we've got some things in the hopper, and actually I have something here I can show you. I don't know
from which one, from who?
From the Johnstons. I don't know if anybody remembers, but they kind of won 2 tournaments right at the end of last year.
It's the Corey Johnson signature Spro beer mug.
No, not a beer mug.
No.
No, it's a worm.
Oh, okay.
It's what they were drop shotting for the for those 2 events, and they won both of them on it.
I think I fished in one of those.
Yeah,
the Open that Corey won. Oh, it's the stretchy stuff.
It's the stretchy stuff. So this is a Japanese elastomeric bait that actually everything's backwards, Matt. Sorry.
I'll really mess you up here. 1 second.
So everything's elastomeric. So it's that really, really durable elastomer type material. But what makes ours cool is it's infused with our Aminobite. So it's basically a scented soft plastic that we have. It's a little 3-inch drop shot / Ned / whatever you want to do with it, worm. We're really excited about this. We should have it in a couple of weeks. So that's coming.
Whole soft bait side of Spro is new.
Yes, the whole soft bait side of Spro is brand new. So that's what we're working on. All of our plastics so far have been made in Japan. They're all very, very high quality plastics. Our elastomer material is made in Japan. Also, our PVC material is made in Japan. They all have our Aminobite scent on them, and they've been doing pretty well. I mean,
you messed up though.
What?
You messed up. You made it out of that durable plastic. All the Japanese plastics are supposed to disintegrate every time you set the hook on a 12-incher.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I went through 6 packs today. You can go through like 6 fish on that one bait. That's your problem there.
Oh yeah. Well, I think they fished that tournament with like 6 baits. I mean, like I didn't have hardly any of them from to fish with, but they did, and they won it. I think the color they were just throwing a prototype green pumpkin when they caught them all.
Hey, I'll throw this up. I don't know how much you want to get in this. It might be a can of worms that you don't want to get into. But Clay says, and I've noticed this too, because I see a lot of rock crawler and Little John knockoffs. Never bought one, but what's the difference with the paint job? Are they coming out of the same molds? How can you have stuff on the shelf that all looks like a rock crawler and stuff? I mean, like, how does that work?
I mean,
like I said, that's a whole different
time. No, not coming out of the same molds. We own our molds. We're the ones making them. It's our bait. There are differences in their baits. I won't go into it. but I can tell you, I can look at a rock crawler and I can look at theirs and I can tell you the difference. I don't want to tell you the difference because I don't want people knocking ours off exactly the way we make them. So that is the one thing I can say about that. So, they can say what they want to say. There's tons of people coming in there. You can bring a lot of people bringing in all this stuff on eBay. For the most part, it's not the same. Paint jobs aren't the same. Materials not the same. It's not the same.
There you go. All right, you good for another segment? I know you're busy. I know you said,
Yeah,
hey, this is good. No one can ask me questions and fires that I have to put out on BTL, so we can go. When I come back, I want to talk about color because that's big. I want to talk about how you guys come up with your color, the design, the paint process of that. And then I also want to get into a little bit of pro staff. Everybody wants to know, how do I get on the pro staff? What do the guys look for on the pro staff? What's the value of the difference between a pro guy who's designing baits and a pro staff guy and all that? And you are the guy to ask for that. So if you're good for that, we'll get into that when we come back.
Yeah.
You good with that?
Bring it.
All right. It is BTL on a Tuesday with Syd Rives from Spro. If you're in that Kennesaw, Georgia area, the man knows every good place to eat in the area too. Little rooftop bars, little grills, little breweries in the area. It's BTL on a Tuesday. We'll be back after this.
I've made my living on the water for over 20 years.
For 14 years.
For over 23 years.
I've worn a bunch of different clothing brands over the years.
Some companies big.
And some companies small.
All of them said they were making clothing for us.
But none of them knew us.
None of them were us. Except for one. Except for one.
Except one.
AFCO.
AFCO.
AFCO. AFCO.
Fishing isn't part of us. It is us.
The KVD 100 jerkbait. 15 different colors. A perfect combination of roll, wiggle, and flash. Increased castability. 3D eyes. Premium black nickel hooks. KVD. Tie one on. Striking lures.
Are you looking to install your own fishing electronics? Well, the Bass Tank is here to help you. The solution is the Bass Tank Power Harness. It takes the guesswork out of installation. No more voltage issues or interference. Designed by an engineer so that you can get professional results right there in your own garage. Installation done right with the help of the Bass Tank Power Harness. You can feel confident knowing that your installation was done right. The Bass Tank Power Harness. Give us a call or order yours today at thebasstank.com.
The new Android series is the peak of the Denali lineup and offers the ultimate Denali experience. The Android series features 36-ton multi-directional graphite combined with interlock blank technology for added strength. Each rod is outfitted with Royal titanium guides that will not fail. The blank is fitted into an easy-touch, soft-feel EVA foam grip with exposed blank reel seat. This all allows the Android to transmit every movement of your bait and even the most subtle bites. The Android series is the finest rod Denali has ever made and offers an angler the ultimate fishing experience with a limited lifetime warranty. See the full lineup of Android rods at denalirods.com.
Elite Series Pro Daryl Gleason here. My Pro Guide batteries keep me going on those long tournament days and long practice days. Always plenty of juice, never fail. The best part about Pro Guide batteries, it's the people behind the company. They have over 40 years experience in the battery business, keeping all of us fishermen out on the water longer, catching more fish. Check them out at ProGuideBatteries.com.
What's up, Bass Talk Live fans? Brandon Polnick here. And ever since I won a couple Bassmaster Elite Series events on X-Zone Lures, I've been getting a bunch of questions of what makes them so special and different. And really, the truth is, it's in the details. The little details, things like no cheap fillers in their plastic. That gives you more lifelike action, more realistic and vibrant colors. But don't just take my word for it. Go to www.xzonelures.com and check them out for yourself.
Welcome back to BTL, talking with Sales and Marketing Manager for Spro, which stands for Sports Professionals, SPRO. We could probably win a trivia contest with that now. It took me, I didn't know for a long time. It's like Spro. Like, it's just one of those things. It's like, I didn't know if it was, is that considered an acronym?
Yeah, I guess. Abbreviation?
Sports Professionals.
Yeah. Sports pros.
Before we were talking about, we kind of did the nitty gritty, and like I said, you could do an hour-long show on every aspect of that, but I wanted people to just kind of get an overview and appreciation of what it takes, how many people are involved. In this case, we're talking multiple different teams, design companies, angler sales, marketing in numerous different countries over a period of hundreds of days to get one crankbait to where you cast it out and you go, oh, I like the way that wiggles. And you catch a bass.
Absolutely.
But a couple of the aspects that we didn't cover, and one of the things Spro's really good at is colors, new colors. I know I've talked off air with Mike McClellan, what are you doing? Oh, I'm out. Dude, I'm doing some new mixed stick colors, and there's a couple companies that like kind of push the envelope with the colors, and Spro is kind of one of those. So talk about how you guys come up with new colors. Is it the same exact process, or do you take I'm just curious because it's a huge part of catching the fisherman's eye and then also catching bass.
All right, let's take the rock crawler. The rock crawler is a great example. We did this one. We did this one a little bit different than we normally do, but this was a good way for us to do it, that we get our own custom colors. We actually gave Mike McClellan some blanks, and he had a friend of his, and Mike went over there to his friend's house, and they painted up 8 colors right there that they would like to see. Yeah. And that's how Mike and him actually came up with the crawl pattern that is on the rock crawlers. So they came up, they drew their own crawl pattern. We didn't just copy somebody else's crawl pattern. We didn't just copy somebody else's colors. We actually went out and painted our own and created it that way. That's really my favorite way of doing it, if we have that capability.
Okay.
That one, yeah, there you go. There's a clear one.
So you sent him that. You sent him the blank. You sent him a bunch of clear baits.
Yeah.
And then his buddy paints whatever.
Yeah. Not that
colors,
one, but like the phantom colors, and yeah.
Interesting.
So that was like the first 8 colors were like that. The rest of them, we already had the template, so we just went in and like that one right there was painted.
Which one was that? That one?
That one, yeah.
So they came back and it said, make this.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So he did a lot of that kind of stuff for that bait, which I thought that was interesting. We created our own little deal. The Little John was very similar. John took his crawl pattern, like on our spring crawl color, and he actually drew that himself, and that's what we ended up sticking on the side of the crankbait. So we try to do things a little bit different and try not to copy exactly what somebody else has as far as their color. Unfortunately, this is fishing. There's a lot of colors out there that are very popular colors. Mm-hmm. So, there's only so many colors that you can, kind of dream up, let's say, or come up with. So you could take we take a lot of base patterns and we put our own little tweaks on them.
Yeah, tweaks on them. Why don't you see a lot of black and blue crankbaits? I mean, I know you've got like the bluegrass craw on it, but as a whole, you don't see many dark black and blue crankbaits. But it works in a bladed jig. It works in an actual jig. It works in everything. But when it comes to the crankbaits, it seems there's not many colors that are that black or dark blue color.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. I mean, you don't see many dark green pumpkin lures either. I mean, I guess you could say the rock crawler, there's several green pumpkin style colors.
Watermelon craw or whatever.
Yeah. But I mean, you for some reason, we just don't transition into that. I don't know. There hasn't been that much demand for it, except for night fishing. We've got a group of guys. There are some black and blue Little John DDs that we have sold to guys fishing Lake Lanier at night. That's kind of a big, not a big deal, but it is a deal.
How important have you guys found for the consumer that the hardware that goes on a hard bait is? And I ask this because there's a ton of people that fish, and I mean, as long as it's got hooks on it, they're not fishing for $100,000. They're not fishing for $50,000. They just want to go out with their buddy. And if they They're not going to check their hooks if it's got it. Then you've got other guys who don't even check the hooks, take the split, take everything off and put all new hardware on. I know that all the Spro baits come with the Gamakatsus, and you've got your own split rings and everything with Spro, but that's kind of an aspect that you guys have taken a step farther than a lot of other hardbait companies as far as take it out of the package and fish it, at least in my opinion.
I look at it as, okay, you may not be fishing a tournament, but how much time do you really have to be spending out on the water? And if you want to put your best foot forward and put your best, let's say your best chances at catching a fish, I mean, what holds the fish is the hook. So the hooks are pretty important. And, we realize, we do have a great relationship with Gamakatsu, and it is our sister company. So of course we're going to put really high quality hooks on there. So that is what we do. And our goal is for everybody to be able to pick up our baits out of the package and go throw them without having to change anything out. Just go pick it up out of the package. It's got a quality hook on it. And you don't have to worry about it. And you could either be fishing a tournament or you could be fishing a Saturday out there with your kids. And the thing is, like I said, how much time do you have, and do you really want a chance missing a fish because you had inferior products on there, inferior quality products? So that's kind of my way of looking at it. I know that might seem snobby, but I'm not. I'm just saying that's our take on the way that, and the reason why we put the better quality product on there.
I don't know how you want to answer this, but let's say, we've got a good selling bait. Like, are you guys selling thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, tens of millions? Like, how many? I mean, you lose crankbaits, right? You lose hard baits. I would think you'd lose less mixed sticks unless it's prototypes that Mike McClellan's trying to fish with, where he loses one. But there's certain baits you go through and certain you don't. Like, if I start out with a dozen rock crawlers, by the end of a Ozark Derby, I'm going to have like 4 or 5 left.
Well, I think
so I'm going to have to restock. So I'm just curious, as a ballpark, is that something you can even talk about, Sid? Is that something that kind of crosses the line? Ballpark, are we talking 7 figures, 6 figures? I would love to know.
Well, it depends on if you're talking a year and it also depends. A lot of this depends on what mass market retailers you're in. I mean, obviously, if you're in Walmart or somewhere like that, of course you're going to have, with 3,000 stores, you're going to have a lot of SKUs that you're going to sell. But really, we don't look at it as much that way. We look at it more of along a deal where, our stuff is usually a little bit more premium priced. It is a little bit, I'd say, in my opinion, a little higher quality product. So when you go into that, it's very, very hard to say, hey, look, we're going to sell 1 million of this bait. You might sell, 100,000 of it or something a year. But it in that class of bait, but to sell that 1 million baits, you're going to have to be in a mass market retailer, and you're probably going to be in that $4.99, $5.99 price range, and that's kind of not what we're in.
I got you. All right, everyone's favorite topic. I know guys have talked about this on the instant feedback today. Everyone wants to know, like, how do you get hooked up with Spro and Gamakatsu, and like how I mean, you've got guys who are like Dean Rojas, who's on tour, and Russ Lane, and all these guys. But as far as what you look for when it comes to people representing your brands, what are the most important aspects?
I think a lot of it breaks down into, I hate to say tiers, but it breaks down into 2 tiers. And, you got your guy that's a field staff guy. A field staff guy is going to be a regional pro staff guy. He's probably, fishing a lot of the regional tournaments, and usually they do pretty well. But the most important thing with those guys is what kind of relationship do they have with our sales team, and how much can they impact sales in their area. That's what it all boils down to. I mean, this whole thing boils down to how much can you sell. And I mean, it's great. if you have a big Instagram following or you have a big Facebook following, but if that's, you might move the needle a little bit, but if you're impacting Bob's Bait and Tackle, that means a little bit more to me than 50,000 people on Instagram looking at your stuff, and working with our sales reps. So that's field staff level. That's your regional pro guy. Now, if we're talking national pro, you pretty much need to be fishing BASS or MLF pro circuit. You're going to be one of those type of guys. Those guys are the guys that, they usually get more eyes on them because they are fishing these national pro events. So that's worth something to us also. So there's those guys. I'm looking for guys that can talk and guys that are willing to work. I think there's a lot of guys out there that, might just depend on their fishing ability and not on their, let's say, marketing and sales ability. And I think that's very important to us, and how willing they are to work with us, whether it's, posting material or, working with the guys over at MLF and BASS, getting in the picture galleries and all that kind of stuff. All that's worth a lot to us.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be my thing would be, you're probably going to be, most of the people are probably going to fall under the field staff regional pro that's going to work with our sales team to help us sell product.
Okay. You still notice a huge uptick. It seemed like back in the day, and I say back in the day, before we had all these different avenues for marketing, for getting product out there, that the Derby win on a bait just skyrocketed through, and then you wouldn't be able to get it. Everyone immediately rushed out to buy that bait, especially if it was a classic or a cup or something like that. Derby wins still translate into a noticeable uptick, or is that all depending on conditions and circumstance, who won it, where they won it, how much publicity was on it, how niche that bait is for that win?
There's two different versions of that, in which, you got your, regular tournament win. Yeah, there's going to be a tournament next weekend that is going to get press. So it has to do with how much press that event gets. So the Bassmaster Classic usually still gets the most press out of all the tournaments. Not trying to make anybody mad. That's just the way it is. It's been around for longer. That's where
it's the classic, man.
It's the classic. So
yeah, enough said.
Yeah. So I can say this, that if you we have not gotten a classic win yet, so I can't tell you for our brand, but I can tell you for most of the brands, when they do have a classic win and they have the product there to sell within a couple of weeks of the classic win or during the classic win, yes, you do extremely well. Now, if you've got it 6 months after the classic win, you may not see the same uptick as you would if you either had it in stock or a couple of weeks after the classic.
All right. What's your
favorite?
favorite?
Answer the question?
Yeah. Okay. Like if you had one day bass fishing, what's your favorite Spro bait to throw? You can only throw that bait. Like you had one last day to ever bass fish. You pick any bait you wanted, but that was all you could throw for that day. You're going frog.
Can I just say frog? I mean, I love to throw a crankbait, but I judge a day by how many fish I can catch on a frog a lot of times.
Yeah, I'd be a horrible judge of that for me.
Yeah. I mean, that's
see, I don't think I've ever been in I don't think I'd seek out frog water. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's, just blowing up on it. And it's all a visual experience. I still go back to it. Now, that being said, I have a little jet boat and I fish the river, and the river's not really a frog area. So I throw a lot of crankbaits, and I do throw a little John a lot. I throw a fat pop a lot, and I throw a rock crawl a lot, and I catch a lot of fish on those. But, if I had to pick one thing, the visual of fish blowing up on a frog is pretty freaking awesome.
Who's the most detail-oriented guy on your pro team? Like the guy who's just like, you're like, really, that makes zero difference, but they're like, it must be this way.
I don't know. I think they're all pretty easy to work with. I'm really,
Well, I didn't say
I'm
difficult,
really
but I
not
was
giving
just
you
talking
politically
about
correct.
detail. Like, is there
I'm not
anybody
giving you
that's
a
just
politically correct deal. I'll say this, that we're working with a new guy that is very, very attention to detail type of guy. I'll flash this by the screen one time.
Hold on, let me get the big screen going. You gotta do it one more time. I didn't have
All
the
right.
big screen up. All right, 3.
So this is just a prototype, but
3,
I'll just go
2.
like that.
Whoa! Whoa!
Yeah, he's
Are you
very
gonna?
attention to detail.
Oh, I was gonna say, are you gonna get in trouble for showing that? But you're the only guy who would get in trouble.
Yeah,
Here.
yeah, exactly.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
If you're
he's
listening
the
on
most attention to
iTunes,
detail guy that I've got right now, and he's not a pain in the neck. He just wants it to be right, and I don't mind it at all. I really don't. I like it, especially on a really technical bait like that. It's got to be right, and which right now he's got 15 shells, and he's actually painting them right now. So
when is that gonna?
I cast. So
That's probably been a while since you've been that excited about a bait.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. It's pretty freaking awesome. So
You missed it if you're listening on iTunes, but Sid flashed up. How would you like to describe that to the iTunes listeners? What you just flashed up on the screen?
a really hot, let's say, glide bait.
Oh well, you just
one that's very, very, very popular. One that's very popular around the Midwest and also the Southeast and Texas. So that's coming, and we've been working with him for it's right out a year. I was looking at our old emails, and they were in May, June, and it was really cool the way that happened. He actually called me asking for some Gamakatsu treble hooks, and I said, "Man, aren't you so and so?" And he was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Would you ever consider a collaboration?" He was like, "Yeah." So that started all last year. It happened. He called me. It was really weird. And sometimes things happen for a reason, and I think that's one of them. I think we're going to do really, really well with it.
That's phenomenal. So, what else you got, Sid? Any good life stories, life lessons, adventures, advice?
Well, I think the biggest thing I can say, and not that I get a lot of people asking how to get in the industry, and I know we went over this earlier, but I think a lot of times you have to kind of take the leap and be willing to change or to move or to, do something, because there's only a limited amount of positions available. And the industry it's done well the last 2 years, but it is a shrinking as far as companies to work for industry. And, it is fun. I'm glad I'm in it. Had a lot of fun working with you, Matt, and with and Bradley. We're actually working on some stuff too. So we've had fun, working with everybody, and it's a fun industry. You don't make a whole lot of money, but it's a fun industry to hang out with the boys and talk about fishing all day.
That was one of the things before I let you go that I wanted to ask your opinion on. You've got a really good beat on this. The last couple years, it seems, with COVID and the stimulus, like the outdoors, the boat market, you're out on boats. There's $20,000 boats selling used, $20,000 boats selling for $35,000. Anybody and everybody who's in the tackle industry can get the components to build their tackle. It's, you go, shelves are bare. Like, what do you think the status is of this? Is this going to keep up? Is this an upward climb? Are we going to see it plateau? What's the next couple years look like, in your opinion, as far as the industry and the sales in the bait market?
Well, I can say that $5 gas is not helping. I think we've talked about that. When you're going to go fishing open and you got to spend that amount of money on gas and hotel rooms and all that. So your expenses have gone way up, and, not to mention groceries and other things. So I think you're going to continue to see the fishing industry doing well. It's a pretty not recession proof business, but it's a very it handles the recession pretty well compared with other industries. But I think as far as the pandemonium of 2021, I don't think we're going to see that coming through. I think supply chains are starting to catch up. But that being said, I feel like our brand has positioned ourselves very nicely in the market, and we'll continue to do well. But the industry as a whole, I see it still doing well, but just not that crazy pandemonium. Buying a $20,000 bass boat for 30. I don't think that that's going to continue. It might, but I don't think it will.
At the beginning of this thing, when this whole COVID thing and all this hit, I was getting ready for the last season, and I had that little ZX 190 that I'd held on to. Ideally, I wanted to do like a Rojas deal where I saved my first boat forever. And then I was like, this is dumb. I'm paying $80 a month in storage. I could sell it right now. Anyway, I sell it to a guy. He's like, you send me a picture of it. I said, it hadn't started in 2 years. I said, you send me a picture of it running. He's like, I'll pick it up tomorrow. I said, deal. Does it. Everything's good. Literally 2 days later, it is on Facebook Marketplace for double what I sold it to him for. Double, Sid. My buddy said, isn't this your boat? I mean, I had some distinctive stuff on it, and I was like, yeah, 100%. That's it. I said, I just sold it 2 days ago. I said, but I took it off Facebook Marketplace. Dude tried to flip it for double, and I'm sure he got it.
Dang. Yeah, it was crazy. It was nuts around here, too. I mean, you couldn't find a John boat with a 15 horsepower motor on it. I mean, I think every kid and their brother was out fishing, and a lot of that had to do with they couldn't play team sports. The events were not going on. You couldn't do any international traveling. You were kind of not stuck, but you were. You were going to go camping or outdoor stuff was very, very popular. I think people are getting back to their normal lives, and you're seeing the normalcy come back. So,
Spro tournaments. There's a couple derbs coming up.
Yeah, man, got those coming up, which you can meet the people that actually work at Spro. We work the tournaments too. So
you do?
Yeah.
What are you handing out, like sausage biscuits in the morning?
No, I wish, man. I wish. But the next one we have coming up is Havasu. That is on 6/11. Just so you know, our tournaments, we usually stop the sign-ups the week before the tournament. So you need to go ahead and sign up for that one if you want to fish it, if you're in that area. And it's a frog-only tournament.
Frog only.
The next is Gunnersville. That's on 10/1. And then the last one is at Chick on 10/22.
All frog only.
Chick is actually a Spro-only tournament. You can use everything.
Oh, well, that's convenient because you guys now sell everything.
Yes, absolutely.
But the other two are frog only. Have you guys done a deal in the rules where you can't like punch them on 2-ounce tungsten and stuff? I mean, you always hear about the frog tournaments.
Funny story. That's how it was won, like probably about 10 years ago.
Oh, that long ago? That's like a legendary story. So if you don't know, you sign up for it. You can only use the Spro frog. It's the only bait that can be in the boat. Pretty good payout too, isn't it? What's first place usually?
Usually $5,000-6,000.
Yeah.
Usually first place. But what we do, this is a customer appreciation tournament. I tell people this is not. We're not a tournament organization. We're doing this completely out of advertising, and basically giving back to our customers. We lose money on these tournaments. We don't make a dime. They're 100% payback. We're renting all the facilities. Most of the tournament sites don't give us, they don't pay but maybe a third of our expenses to go to these things. So it's literally, we're in the hole after each one of them. But that being said, we have a lot of fun doing it. It's fun to give back. It's fun to hang out with the anglers that actually use our product. That being said, we do pay I think it's 1 in 5 is what we pay. And a lot of times we're paying all the way down to like 50th place at Gunnersville. So, you might even weigh in one fish and get a check. So I've had so many anglers say, man, I've fished a ton of tournaments. I've never gotten a check. Well, a lot of times you get a check-in hour. So it's a lot of fun. It's something that, like I said, we're doing to give back, and it's fun to do that side of it.
I need to get in one of those. I've never fished a frog.
You might not be legal. You might be. You might. Yeah, we don't like touring pros fishing the deal.
Well, what if you're
But
an open guy who doesn't?
Get in,
What if you're
I don't
an
know
open
if
guy
opens count. I'd have
who's
to.
never weighed in a frogfish?
Yeah.
I would be harmless, Sid.
Yes, I forgot about that. Yeah.
But yeah, you won't have to like go up against Dean and Drew Cook and.
Yeah, no, we don't do that.
Hallman.
Yeah, we want this to be able. We get guys that fish it out of John boats. We get guys that fish. You don't need a brand new 21-foot boat to come fish our tournaments. This is a fun tournament that we put on. We get a lot of kids that fish it with their dads. A lot of kids with their granddads that fish it. So it's a lot of fun, and it's usually cheap entry fees. $125 for most of them. I think Havasu's a little bit more expensive, but Guntersville and Chick, it's very affordable. And come on out, we'll show you a good time, and we also give out goodie packets to each one of the boats. So it's a fun little deal.
You get a lot of weird mail from like frog freaks. Because it seems like there's like a subset of people who are just obsessed with a bronze-eye frog.
Oh, it's hilarious. I get people, the one that I get the most are guys that get tattoos of the frog on their arms,
really?
Or on their legs, or on their, yes.
On their necks?
Legs, not necks.
Oh, I thought you said the old neck tattoo.
Yeah, no neck tats and no facial tats. I've just seen the leg, like the calf. Or the arm. I've even seen the Little John tattoo.
Really?
Yeah, Little John tattoo.
Like, yes. Are we talking like single digits here, or have you had like dozens of people be like, "Hey, I think I deserve the Spro Frog discount"?
Frog, probably at least 10. Little John, maybe like 1 or 2. It's hilarious.
All I'm getting is tree frogs.
Tree frogs.
Yeah, I typed in Spro frog tattoo.
Well, I mean, I don't necessarily publish them. We just get them on.
Well, I figured someone might have published them.
They might have.
I mean, that's one to be proud of. Now I'm getting a lot of tree. There's like a whole subculture of tree frog tattoos.
I had no clue.
I'm on borderline on a dangerous search here. All right.
Yeah. You might not want to see it.
All right. You got anything else, Sid? I've greatly enjoyed this. I've learned a lot. Hopefully I didn't pry too deep on the questions. No. We don't really do like a pre-show interview because I kind of just want to see how it goes. You got anything else behind there on the wall that you can show us? I just want to right there.
You know what? Actually, I've got something right here. Working on some spinnerbaits. These will be available soon.
Spro spinnerbaits. That's an Oklahoma-only spinnerbait right there.
Yeah, exactly. So, you got like a little wrong side. Okay, here we go. It's got the little bend right there. Little compact.
Little tweak.
Yeah.
Got the Spro eye in it.
Yeah. Got it the size of the blades and everything on the blades. I don't know what to do with my hands. I can't figure it out.
Yeah, no, you got it. That's
all
good.
Right. So that being said, we do have some of these coming at ICAST this year, and then we have jigs. Some new jigs coming out. I won't tell you who these are with, but new jigs.
Oh, if you know your Ozarks, that's kind of an easy guess there, right?
No.
No?
You'll never guess it.
Really?
No. It's good. It's good, though.
Oh, there's an Arky style head. There are too many guys who throw that. Is that called the Aspirin style or Arky? What do you call it?
I call it Arky.
Arky, yeah.
Yeah.
Old school.
A little fatter on the backside of it, but no, it's kind of a little bit of a hybrid jig. So those are coming too next year. And we got buzz baits. We got all kinds of stuff. We got tungsten weights. We got everything coming. Stay tuned. We got it coming at ICAST.
All right. That sounds good. Well, I greatly appreciate you taking time out of your morning. My goal, it's 11. It looks like you'll have to do about half an hour of work before we can go to lunch.
Exactly.
I was trying to stretch it out to where you could do the BTL prep, the BTL show, and then go straight to
The lunch,
the barbecue joint.
Oh yeah, the Nest. The Nest is good.
Is that where you took us when we were down there?
Yeah, Nest is good.
Vinegar-based barbecue, right?
Huh?
Vinegar-based barbecue.
It's got vinegar. It's got both. You can do anything there. I usually get the hot. It's like hot habanero or hot ghost pepper or something like that. It's awesome. And the collard greens.
All right. Well, we're going to take a final break then. I'm going to come back, wrap things up, talk a little bit about the show tomorrow, what we have coming up next week. Big shout out, Sid. Thank you very much. Hopefully our listeners got a little bit more of an education, a little bit more understanding. When you walk into a tackle store and you see a hard bait on there, kind of what it goes through, who's behind it, how it's designed. Now, I know every company does it differently, but when you see that yellow or green packaging now with a lot of the yellow packaging, same baits, just transition into the Essential Series in the green packaging, exact same thing, correct?
Yes.
You kind of have a little bit of understanding, a little bit of history behind it.
Yep, absolutely.
So, that's great, Sid. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening.
All right, we'll be back. Wrap things up on a Tuesday. BTL.
Combining one of the most popular hook styles with Gamakatsu's beefier Superline offering, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend delivers the strength necessary to target big fish in heavy cover. Well suited for braided line and heavier fluorocarbon, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend is built using stronger Superline wire that allows anglers to easily fish a finesse worm around heavy cover. The round bend offers a larger bite area, perfect for any worm presentation, while increasing your hookup ratios. The newly enhanced Z-bend holds your plastics on the hook longer, reducing the number of pull-offs and reducing damage to plastics. Available in 2/0, 3/0, 4/0, and 5/0, this is the most durable worm hook, designed for heavier lines that hold your bait on longer.
Preparation is key to success. And that preparation starts well before you ever hit the water. You're only as strong as your connection to the fish, and your line is that critical connection. Confidence in your line every minute of every day on the water is a necessity, and failure, it's not an option. Sunline makes the fluorocarbon, nylon, and braided lines to give you the strength to guarantee your confidence.
Vibrating jigs are a great choice for any time of year, and the Kamikaze Swim-On is a perfect match for any vibrating jig. Two sizes and the unique tail design gives it a bait fish profile and a great swimming action for realism. There are 17 colors. See them all at bigbitebaits.com.
The Spro Little John crankbait has been around for almost 15 years, and it is one of my go-to crankbaits whenever I need a fish in the boat, so you can never have enough new colors. That's why Spro's coming out with a handful of new colors, including Pearl Shad, which has this bleached out white look, but it's got this pearlescent, really, really pretty. We've got Copper Shad, which looks amazing in the water. It's got that purple flake on the back, really, really pops in the water. And then if you want some real pop, we've got Sparkle Shad, nothing but sparkles all over this thing. And then last but not least, we've got the matte Sexy Shad, just a really different looking color for a crankbait. So you want to give them a little different look, that matte Sexy Shad is definitely the one to go with. All these colors are available in the original Little John and the MD.
Welcome back. Wrapping things up here on a Tuesday for BTL. Big thanks to Syd Rives out there in Kennesaw, Georgia, just outside of Atlanta. I wouldn't be able to do that. I've driven through Atlanta a couple times with the boat in tow. I've gone it through it at like 3 a.m. I've gone through it at like 11 a.m. I've even been through it at rush hour. And there's not a good way to get a boat through Atlanta. But they're a little bit outside of Atlanta. It's a really nice area. But still, the traffic would drive me nuts. Tomorrow, a little bit different show. Tomorrow, I've dabbled in some of the more like non-traditional guys who make a living in the industry. I know we had Ben Milliken on, who's now he's a national commercial guy. He's like an Orkin commercial that's been running nationally. And Johnny Schultz from Fish the Moment had him on to talk about some stuff. And a guy that I'm kind of intrigued with, don't really know much about him, but have been impressed over the last couple years. It's kind of seems like he's going through an evolution, finding his place in the industry, what he's good at, and went from more of, at first, I'll say it, he kind of had a shtick. He was kind of in a box, I think, and has done a really good job to kind of break that mold and then combine humor and some of those elements along with a really serious side that show that he's got some real talent in this thing. And that's Fat Cat Newton. He's next to Luke Duncan for the MPFL. For that, I know he does Brian Robinson's charity foundation tournament MC. He just was the MC of the St. Jude Bass Classic, where I'll talk a little bit more about that, on how that went down, how that was run. I kind of wanted to wait until Wednesday since he's been the longtime MC and host of that event in Minnesota. But I'd like to get his story. I don't really know it. Like I said, I went up to him. I said, man, I said, you want to do a interview on BTL of kind of how all this evolved and where you want to be and what you want to see, and it's not cashing checks and snapping necks and bobbies and high kicking, and we'll go over that, but it's more of a kind of real interview about where you are, what your goals are, how you ended up the industry. He's like, yeah, man, I'm all in. So Fat Cat Newton tomorrow, and then on Thursday, Frank wants to open up the lines, man. Frank Scalish wants to open up the phone lines, take some calls. So we will do that on Thursday, and then working on maybe some Ray Scott stuff for the following week, and just getting back into the swing of things with the Spawn over, the tournament season halfway over now. Big shout out to all the BTL listeners, viewers, and family who purchased the t-shirt for the St. Jude. I said $6,700, I think, is what we raised just through BTL. So that was awesome. But that's all we got for a Tuesday. Big shout out to Sid from Spro. Fat Cat Newton tomorrow. And I'm going to try to go fishing around here. I'm going to try to catch a crappie. It's been forever since I've actually been fishing. So maybe even later today, tomorrow, after the show, we'll see. Go get the boat wet. But this has been BTL on a Tuesday. We will talk to you guys tomorrow.